The notorious Conor McGregor. Mm. West Coast. West Coast. That's right, man. Respiratorism. Shout out to you, my man. JD. This man is the GOAT, he says. America is the GOAT. That's right, man. That's right. We live in a beautiful country. And, well, not so much about politicians, though. How about now? Can you guys hear me okay? All right. He said, enjoy the money I sent you. Thank you, my man. Thank you for that. All right. He said, enjoy the money I sent you. Okay, good. Just wanted to play myself on another, what do you call it? In another device just to make sure that I was being heard. Okay, so we're going to start this stream off within the 5-minute mark. Okay, so we got a lot to get into, and I'm about less than an hour away from breaking my fast. So he said that the State of the Union is tomorrow. Boy, that is going to be exciting. What do you guys think? If I have time, I may do a live reaction on that, right? Obviously, because not only is this mixed martial arts channel, it's also a hip hop channel, but it is also a political channel. He says 11 people watching the stream right now. There it is, man. And with that in mind, guys, like and subscribe. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because I am here working hard for you guys during Ramadan, by the way, while I'm fasting. And I'm probably going to be breaking my fast with you guys, right? So shout outs to everybody around the world. We're going to start the stream off right now. So here we go. Stream starts. There it is. We got that official. And then let's get back to the intro. All right, here we go, guys. West Coast. Says Kyrie the GOAT. This is fire. That's right, man. So we're going to start off in less than 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 19, 18, 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. All right, guys, so here we are. As the stream starts, we got a couple of things to get into. As you know, if you've been living under a rock, the cartel members are currently targeting Americans while Mexico is currently on fire right now, okay? And in the other conversation we're going to talk about, why is Conor McGregor set up to lose at the White House card? Find out why. It has something to do with his contract and the power that the UFC wants over fighters, so let's get it. Respiratory says, what's up to Constantinos. Constantino says, yo, bro, how are you guys, man? Shout out to everybody that is showing all the love right now, because let's preface this before we get into the reaction of what we're going to talk about, right? So I've heard that they are planning on matching up Conor McGregor with Carlos Prats. Now, is that a good matchup for Conor McGregor? To be quite honest with you, no. All right? And the reason why I say that is because, well, Conor McGregor is not the same Conor McGregor anymore. He isn't. It's a different guy. What you are seeing right now is a different version of Conor McGregor. In fact, I always reference the Santa Monica, Venice Beach Conor McGregor. If you remember, back in 2014, 2015, those were magical times for Conor McGregor. At the time, he wasn't a full undisputed champion yet, but he had hunger, he had drive, he had motivation. As opposed to the Conor McGregor right now, what motivation do you really have when you are the biggest fighter in the world in terms of popularity, at least within the UFC? Okay, now that could also include all of combat sports, but that is debatable depending on who you compare him to. Now, is he bigger than Canelo? Well, I don't know. Is he bigger than, let's say, John Jones? For certain. Is he bigger than most guys in the UFC? Yes. But it doesn't mean that you can take that fame with you into the ring. You can't take that with you into the cage. Okay? And Chael Sonnen said it best. By the way, the guy who inspired Conor McGregor's career. Okay? In terms of being the trash-talking guy, because before Chael Sonnen, all of MMA was literally a place of respect, fake respect. Oh, you know, we're going to be respectful towards each other. We're not going to talk trash. We're going to act like we are from a Japanese, Asian, traditional martial arts culture, when it's a complete crock of you-know-what, considering the backgrounds that you know of these fighters. The majority of the fighters you know are absolutely shit houses, okay? And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse. Yeah, but I didn't want to hesitate, and I didn't want to stutter when I'm saying that, but I'm also trying not to curse, but you get what I mean. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of this fake respect that a lot of the fighters exhibited during the Anderson Silva era, the GSP era, all of that is a front, okay? In fact, the reality is the majority of fighters are actually like Conor McGregor in the personality that he displays. They are hyper-aggressive. They will use their superstardom for however big or little it is to their advantage. They will use the people that they need to in order to get to the top. This is the reality of combat sports athletes. And it just so happens that Chael Sonnen was one of those guys that opened up that spectrum of behavior into the world of mixed martial arts, especially when mixed martial arts at the time was trying to get their hands into the mainstream crowd. Okay, that is what they were trying to do. So what did they do in the process? They wanted to create this fake facade of, oh, these guys are professional athletes. They dress in suits like George St. Pierre. They go out and have college degrees like Chuck Liddell. Did you know Chuck Liddell was an accountant, right? All of these things that they try to make relatable to the normal crowds of the world. And now here we are a couple of years, a couple of decades later, the UFC is more popular than ever. And what do you get in the process of that? What you got is a UFC that is not only popular, but is undeniable to the point where they allow people like Sean Strickland to say racist things and then potentially get away with it. Now, they're going into Paramount, an even bigger platform than anything that they have ever dealt with, right? Bigger than ESPN, bigger than Fox, bigger than Spike TV in their earlier days. So what you got out of that is censorship. And that is one thing that I really want to preface about this, right? A lot of people love this idea of freedom of speech. And I know JD in the chat section right now, he loves the fact that I allow you guys to say whatever it is that you want, right? You guys love that I allow you guys to say whatever you want as long as you don't piss me off, as long as you don't say anything that is inaccurate. And even if you were to say something inaccurate, I would let you say it, but we will challenge it. And if I'm saying something inaccurate, well, I'm going to allow you to challenge me. And by the way, I'm not above correction. There have been plenty of times in this live chat where I have allowed myself to be corrected because I am not above correction. I am not above the program, as they say, right? I know that's a term that they use in the gang world. Nobody is bigger than program, but, you know, I sort of stand by that ideology. I don't believe that I'm bigger than the program. I don't believe that I'm bigger than the correction, but more importantly, in the Islamic reference of things, I am not bigger than the haq. Okay, haq in Arabic means what? It means the truth. So I am not bigger than the truth. I allow you to correct me if I am wrong, but I am also going to get at you if you are. By the way, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just going off of a little pre-intro ramble right now, but I will get to all of your comments. I'm going to let the comments pile up just a little bit, and then we're going to get right into it, okay? He said, Respiratory says, you are bigger than you believe. Man, thank you so much for that respiratorism, man. You really give me a lot of confidence in the way that you believe in me. And Victory, shout out to you as well. I have not been ignoring you, bro. Sorry. Don't think that I am. I'm just trying not to lose my train of thought in what I'm trying to get at, right? But here's the thing, right? Conor McGregor has gotten himself into a position where he is now bigger than the program, okay? And the reason why he has gotten himself into that position is because, number one, the UFC had emboldened him. Well, now, what does the UFC want to do? They want to do something completely different. They want to cut him down to size, okay? They want to humiliate him. So in other words, they're going to give him the worst matchup possible, and that's going to be Carlos Prates, as rumored in terms of the matchmaking that they have in mind, right? Now, Dana White was asked at the press conference where he addressed Eddie Hearn, and he called Eddie Hearn a baby. He was also asked about the other Conor in his life, right? Conor McGregor. There's Conor Ben, and then there's Conor McGregor. They asked him about Conor McGregor. Is Conor McGregor signed to fight at the White House? What did Dana White reply? He said, if he was signed to fight at the White House, wouldn't you think that I would announce it by now? Okay, well, why didn't you, Dana? Is there trouble in paradise, perhaps? Is there some contract negotiations issues that we need to know about? Let us know, right? Well, I got to tell you, they're not letting you know of anything, right? It's sort of like Dana White is acting like a Kash Patel. Do you remember when Kash Patel was asked at the Joe Rogan podcast, well, are there anything in the Epstein files that we need to know about? And what does he say in the process? He says, there's nothing going on in the Epstein files. I don't know anything. I don't have anything going on. And that's just the reality of the situation. Now, why did he say that? Well, for the same reason why Dana White is probably not telling you why he didn't announce any of the White House fights yet. And the reason being is because of the fact that, let's be honest, he wants to keep things a secret. For the same reason why people are getting at Kash Patel. Now, look, here's the thing. You guys know that I'm not a fan of the boys, if you know what I mean, right? The people that Kash Patel worked for. I'm not a fan of Kash Patel, period. Okay, never mind whatever agency or organization he works for. But I think people are slagging off Cash Patel in ways that is a little bit uncalled for. Okay, like for example, why do you need to get at Cash Patel for celebrating with the U.S. hockey team for winning? You know, for winning the gold medal in the Olympics, right? Why do you need to slag him off for that? What is the reason for that? Well, the reason for that is because you guys are upset that there is all these Epstein files going on, and he decides to fly his ass over to Italy to celebrate with the U.S. team, okay? But I don't think that really qualifies as anything, right? I think they are unrelated. They are completely unrelated and have nothing to do with each other, right? It's a false equivalence. It is a complete false equivalence because what he does in his job doesn't have to necessarily reflect what he likes to do as, let's say, a very, how do I say this, a very exuberated person. He's very eccentric for an FBI agent. I'm going to give you an example. Who remembers the movie Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme? Do you remember the synopsis of that movie? The synopsis of that movie goes as something as follows, right? Here's this American serviceman who wanted to compete in the Kumite in Hong Kong. What happens? 2 FBI agents start following him to his journey in Hong Kong because, for whatever reason, the American government does not want one of our servicemen to go fight in a combat sports event in Hong Kong because they're scared of his safety. They're scared that he's going to go fight a French guy with Thai letters on his Thai shorts. Oh my goodness, the humanity is so dangerous. Well, look, as exaggerated as that sounds, you got to understand this was the mentality of many FBI agents back then. The way that they looked at mixed martial arts, the way that they looked at martial arts, period, it was, I mean, look, here's another example. The Three Ninjas. Okay, I'm going back to like the 90s, so all the old heads that like watch 90s movies, you know what I'm talking about. The Three Ninjas was about 3 boys whose dad was an FBI agent and whose dad was a Japanese samurai or a Japanese ninjutsu artist, and they trained him all summer long, but yet the dad, who was an FBI agent, really had this hatred for martial arts. Now, going back to Cash Patel, he is completely different from these boring, white bread, Washington, D.C. Types. Completely different. He involves himself in sports gambling. He goes and investigates and goes after them. He goes and changes the FBI's official car from a Suburban and into a BMW based on the fact that they already have certain type of advantages in terms of not breaking down, because from what I understand, they needed to armor up the Chevy Suburbans, right? And so the weight of the armor in the Chevy Suburbans caused problems for the car's internal infrastructure, right? So they decided, you know what, let's go with the BMWs instead because they are much easier to armor up. And they come with certain advantages already off top within their own stock, within their own stock options, right? When you buy a BMW in stock, it's already strong, it's already durable, and not only that, it blends into the public, right? So that was his reason behind it. And then what else? He goes out of his way to encourage FBI agents to train mixed martial arts, and even goes as far as to go to UFC events to talk to Dana White, to talk to fighters, so they can go and have a relationship with the UFC and potential of training FBI agents. So he's a very different type of guy. And now, all the things that he was saying about Epstein, or lack of giving information on that matter, I think it's just a matter of secrets that they can't reveal. And going back to Dana White, that is the reason why Dana White is not revealing to you whether Conor McGregor is fighting or not, okay? But what I can tell you is that the UFC right now is setting up Conor McGregor to lose. They want him to lose. And by the way, shout out to MMA Joey. I know you guys don't like him. Some of you like him. I'm 50-50 with him, right? I think that he has good, interesting content, although I think that he is a little bit hyper-exaggerated in a way that he forces himself into an outrage. Nonetheless, I think MMA Joey has some brilliant takes, and I'm willing to react to his video right now. The UFC is setting up Conor McGregor to lose to Carlos Prates, and I'm interested to see why that is, right? There's something going on with his contract, and I'm explaining to you right now what I thought that was, and I think that the UFC is tired of Conor McGregor of being bigger than the program, and they want to cut him down to size. Okay, so before I get to that reaction, let me read some of these comments from the very top all the way to the bottom right now. Okay, so let's see here. Big Boy 355 says, enjoy the money I sent you. Thank you so much. State of the Union tomorrow. 11 people watching the stream right now. Respiratory says, yo, this is fire. Constantino says, yo, bro, Kyrie is the GOAT. Respiratory says, what's up? He said, hi, I'm great. Now you're live, brother. Ramadan going all well? Yes, Constantino's Ramadan is going very beautiful. Constantino says, bro, I don't believe anything when it comes to Conor. One day they say he fights Chandler, Diaz, Poirier, Masvidal, now Prates. I think they're trying to find the best possible scenario for him, right? He says, Kyrie, we going to Mexico, bro. We gotta liberate it. Now, Respiratory, why did you erase this comment in that, right? I mean, it's not really, you know, the most offensive comment, but okay. He says, toxic, what you mean? You're good, bro. It's your live stream. Do what you will. He said, Burrow Weisper said, hi, hello, how are you? Let me know what part of the world you are from. Yo, share the stream, people. Thank you for that, Respiratory, also known as JD. Thank you. Let's see, what else here? Kyrie, bro, I got straps, bro, the grenades. You got the fighting. Oh, man. Okay, I can see why Respiratory erased that one, right? You know, you can't be talking about no guns or busting caps and people, you know, while you're in this live stream, my man. You know what I mean? That's not a very good look. He says, you the GOAT and you know it. Inshallah, I hope to get to that level. Victory says, you've been ignoring me, bro. No, I haven't. Here it is right now, me responding to you. Hopefully you respond back. Respiratory says, I don't know what's, that's my name, it's silly. Ryan Miller, he says, for God so loved the world that he gave, okay, so he's throwing some Bible verses in there. Odin says, home of the greatest story never told will never see the truth. Roy Steele says, Dad, we may have to take a DNA test on that one, but I highly doubt it. You know, I don't know you from a can of paint. El Mencho was a scary dude, big bro. Okay, was he? Okay. He says, Toxic Game plays, yo, 3 ninjas called back. Yeah, I had to reference that because obviously the dad was an FBI agent, right? He had no respect for martial arts. You know, I don't know why, but you know, you see that the modern FBI has a different stance on that. Look at Bloodsport, right? Van Damme was followed by American FBI agents because, wow, they didn't want him to fight a bunch of French guys with Muay Thai shorts on. Ooh, and they had Thai letters on it. Wow, so scary. Oh, and they throw elbows? Oh, my goodness. You know, that was their whole entire outlook of martial arts back in the days. So, okay, let's get to this reaction with MMA Joey and why he believes... oops, what is that, man? I hope I don't get copyrighted for that. That's a commercial right there. But
setting Conor McGregor up to lose to Carlos Prates at the UFC White House.
All right, why is that, MMA Joey?
Event, which is supposed to happen this coming June. And while this is not official, this has not been hinted at, really. I followed all the context clues. I followed the breadcrumbs. And that is exactly what the UFC is trying to do. They want Conor McGregor to be sacrificed to Carlos Prates in a massive fight. It would be a massive fight. It would do well. It would be a huge co-main event or main event potentially for the White House. I believe it will be co-main event. I'm going to lay it all out for you guys in this video.
I'll tell you what's really insane about that, right? What's really insane about what he said right now. If you think about it, Conor McGregor has lost a lot of the major fights. He's lost a lot of the major fights. Okay? Floyd Mayweather, that was a big fight. He lost that one. Khabib, he lost that one. Dustin Poirier, not so much. Yeah, you could say that was a pretty big fight. It was actually one of the biggest pay-per-views, right? Just not as memorable. He lost that one. Now he goes into the White House and loses again. So, Khabib, Floyd, White House. And what does that tell you about Conor McGregor's career? Well, I mean, the Eddie Alvarez fight, he won that one, right? That was pretty big for what it was. But okay, that makes sense, right? The UFC wants to cut him down to size. Let's hear why.
Yeah, I'm going to break it all down. We're going to check out Dana White's post-fight presser he did at UFC Houston. We're going to listen to some recent comments that Ronda Rousey made about the UFC not being willing to pay certain fighters. We're going to get to that. She also talks about the best versus the best. I may do an entirely different video on this as well.
So Ronda Rousey calling out the UFC and Dana White for no longer caring about putting on the best versus the best. Right now they've secured a $7.7 billion guaranteed from Paramount. The revenue isn't dependent on competitive meritocracy whatsoever, right? It's dependent on delivering content at the highest margin, right? That's really what it is. If you look at Paramount, they got what? Yellowstone, a highly sensationalized show, nothing boring about it. Mobland, a highly sensationalized show, nothing boring about it. The UFC, the best versus the best. I don't know. Maybe they're not interested in that per se, right? But the fact that they are being paid that much, there's a lot of incentives to sort of steer in that direction.
But we also have some recent Conor McGregor comments, which we're going to break down. Some recent social media posts from Carlos Prates as well as Conor McGregor. And I'm going to lay it all out for you guys in this video. But I want to start with this, because this is really the synopsis of the video. Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz, UFC 279. You're probably thinking, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, well, I think I kind of know where he's going with this one, but I'm going to let Joey cook on this one.
Do you guys see anything in common to the fight that I just said? Conor McGregor, Carlos Prates, Khamzat Chimaev, Nate Diaz. Very similar situations. If you remember...
Now, here's the thing, right? I don't know if that's a similar situation. Now, Conor McGregor, I know he's not the same guy anymore, but we're acting like Chimaev versus Diaz is, yes, that was a huge mismatch, right? But we're acting like that's equivalent to Conor McGregor and Carlos Prates. Conor McGregor could knock out Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates likes to strike. Conor McGregor has a big left hand. And then on top of that, anything could happen in a fight, right? Especially when none of them have wrestling. And when I mean that anything can happen to a fight, if the guy doesn't have wrestling, guess what? Anything can literally happen in a fight because a knockout can easily come, and that's the reality of it.
Remember, when Khamzat was announced to be fighting Diaz, everyone was like, huh? This doesn't make any sense.
But maybe the UFC believes that Carlos Prates is a bad matchup for Conor McGregor for multitudes of reasons. Do you remember the times that Conor McGregor had to pull out for the Michael Chandler fight? Now, what were the reasons he had to pull out for those fights? Now, the reason why he had to pull out for those fights, my theory on it, the UFC went to Dublin, Ireland, flew over there, watched this training camp and said, we can't put this guy on. This is going to be an absolute embarrassment, right? Like, it's one thing to get Conor into the cage and to get him in there when he tried his very best in a training camp and fell short. It is one thing to send him in there in this kind of shape to where he has no competitive, there's nothing competitive that you sort of notice that he could offer against Michael Chandler. So they had decided, you know what, we're just going to get rid of this fight, scratch it off, and hopefully he comes back with a much better training regimen, but you never know, right? So I think that's what's going on. I think that's what is going on with Conor McGregor, right? I think that they noticed, you know what? We're not going to get anything good out of him. Why not just sacrifice him? So who are we going to sacrifice him to? We can't fight him against Chimaev because he's too much of a high level. He's of a different weight class. We can't have him fight these 155ers because they're not really big names or they don't really have a potential to be a star. How about this? We put him in there against Carlos Prates. Avenge the loss of Jose Aldo. Fight for the Brazilians. Right now, Carlos Prates becomes a hero to the Brazilians and in turn becomes a hero to the world because he was the guy to finally shut Conor McGregor up. Now here's the thing, as UFC fans, we've already seen Conor McGregor get beat up plenty of times already. Okay, we've seen him get beat up plenty of times already, but the White House is a little bit different because there's going to be people there that are going to watch MMA for the first time and maybe even the last time of their whole entire lives. Okay? And what kind of impression are they going to gather out of that? What they're going to gather out of that is Conor McGregor is a failure. And that's exactly what the UFC wants to present for whatever reason. Maybe there's some contract negotiations going on behind the scenes that they have to make it look like that, but we shall see.
Nate Diaz had name value, had star power within the UFC, and what was he doing? He was looking to fight out his UFC contract. And while this fight ultimately didn't happen, what the UFC wanted was Khamzat Chimaev to smash and finish Nate Diaz on the way out the door.
There it is. There it is. So Conor McGregor, guess what he wants to do? He wants to box. He wants to fight for BKFC. He wants to maybe fight in other MMA leagues, right? Can you imagine Conor McGregor fighting for ONE FC or Conor McGregor fighting for Bellator or PFL, right? Unimaginable, right? Out of all the guys in the world, right? That is the one guy that you just cannot see him fight anywhere else other than the UFC. But he will explore those options if he could. Fresh Melon Juice says Conor, Nate, John, etc. will not fight at the White House. I'm gonna go with 1 out of 3. One out of the 3 of those guys will fight at the White House. Okay, not all 3 of them. How about that? Right? Could I meet you halfway on that reality? Fresh, I think that's what will happen. Right? Conor, Nate, John. Yeah. Only one of them will fight at the White House. My estimate. Probably Nate. Nate seems like the likeliest. Against who? Maybe Dustin Poirier. Right? American versus American. 2 American stars. Maybe. Maybe.
Does that sound familiar? Does that ring a bell? What would be similar to that? Conor McGregor versus Carlos Prates. Conor McGregor has been sitting on the sidelines for damn near 5 years. There's been talk. There's been conversations being had. There's been discussions. There's been words and thoughts being formed and mutually symbiotic, beneficial relationships with Chandler, okay? Chandler's been begging to climax with Conor McGregor at the White House. It's not happening. That's not happening. So we already have confirmation from Dana that McGregor's not coming back and fighting Chandler. So who's he going to fight? We're going to get to that. We're going to get to it. We're going to break it down because there's more. Let's check out this. Well, actually, before we check out Conor McGregor, this was my initial tweet, and this is really when I had my eureka moment. The UFC really offered Conor McGregor Carlos Prates at the White House. They really want McGregor to lose since he hasn't re-signed a long-term deal. We're going to check out this clip later. This was when Dana was asked about Conor McGregor's next fight. This was at the post-fight presser. We're going to get to that, but I want to check out this. Listen to what Conor McGregor had to say back in October. We're going to get to some more recent comments soon. Listen to this.
And I am McGregor. I can do as I please. So let's see how the future shapes out. Obviously, I've got my UFC contract. I've got the fight in the White House coming up in 8 months' time. Then I've got one more fight in the contract. The UFC have to come to me with business, you know?
And then I got one more fight on my contract. The UFC has to come to me with business. But listen to this next statement.
They may try and secure me for longer. I don't know what they're going to do. They have a decision on their hands to make. Do they secure me or do they let me go? You know, I am unsure, but all that matters for me is my preparation.
Do they?
All right, so that is very revealing right there. Oh, wow. I just realized something. Hold up. There's going to be a fight in Mexico. There's going to be a fight in Mexico while all of these things are going on. I just realized that right now. Sorry, just random thought that just spurred into my head right now. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, okay. Going back to Conor McGregor. Okay, look, there is a strong possibility, okay, that maybe they don't want to re-sign Conor McGregor. For whatever reason. Okay, maybe there's a lot of scandal that Conor McGregor has gotten into that perhaps maybe Paramount does not want to get into, right? But maybe they'll use him one time and then leave him afterwards, because if you keep him any longer, perhaps he can put himself in a volatile situation while locked in a UFC contract. So these are some things that you have to really think about. And again, we don't know if this is true. I'm only hypothesizing, and so is MMA Joey. He doesn't really know, but I will say that is quite a brilliant take on his part.
They secure me or do they let me go? I got 2 fights left on my contract. Something that he said in damn near every interview for the last 2 years. I got 2 fights left on my contract. I got 2 fights left on my contract. And that's not even bringing into the fact.
So if that's 2 fights, the White House is won. What happens afterwards? Maybe another pay-per-view, right? But why would they want him to lose to Carlos Prates? Let's hear more on what MMA Joey has to say about that.
There may be a sunset clause coming up very, very soon. 2 fights left on his contract. Do they secure me or do they let me go? I believe Conor McGregor plans to leave the UFC because the UFC underpays him for what he brings, the value that he brings. But now it's a different dynamic because there's no longer pay-per-view. And now...
Fresh Melon Juice says, Floyd and Pacquiao at the Spear, Dana is crying. That's right, yes. Floyd Mayweather is set to fight Manny Pacquiao as well. Why would Dana be crying about that? Explain why Dana would be upset at Floyd and Pacquiao fighting once again. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, right? The Floyd and Mayweather fight, it's not really a fight that a lot of hardcores are gunning for, okay? I know you're not. Are you? I mean, look, we're hardcores, but we're also enthusiasts, right? Let's not get the 2 words mixed up, right? We're hardcores, but we're also enthusiasts, and that's kind of how I describe myself. I think you can easily be described that way as well, Fresh Melon Juice, and then also the proverbial you, everyone else that's in the chat right now. I think that is the best way to describe you guys, right? You guys are enthusiasts as well as hardcore mixed martial arts and boxing fans, right? So guys like that, are you interested in, let's say, Rambo 9? Okay? Because let me be honest with you, right? This fight is exactly that. It's a Rambo 9 situation. Nobody in the modern world of movie enthusiasts are gunning to get out of their way to go watch Rambo 9. They're out to watch Jason Statham. They're out to watch Tom Hardy in Mobland. By the way, in Paramount. Okay, just wanted to throw that out there as a little bit of a shameless plug. We are interested in the David Benavidez fights of the world. Okay, we're interested in the Ilya Topuras taking on Islam Makhachev. We're interested in Islam taking on Ian Gary. We're interested in these things. These are the fights that we're interested at. This fight with Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, it's Rambo 9. You know who watches Rambo 9? People in China, people in overseas, people that still think Steven Seagal is the man, right? These are the type of people that are interested in this particular content. He said, Dana said nobody would create a fight event after UFC, that it was a one-off for the fight scene. Okay, no, that's not what it was. What he's saying is that in terms of the UFC, they're not going to do that. Now, look, is Floyd and Pacquiao going to fight at the Spear? Yes, but are they going to have the same, like, theatrics of these movie packages or these trailers that they have going on of, like, the history of the Philippines, and now you got the history of Floyd Mayweather, you got photos of his dad fighting Sugar Ray Leonard and things of that. No, I doubt that's what they're going to do, or maybe that's what they're going to do. Maybe they just might copy what the UFC did at the Spear, where they basically gave a love letter to Mexico, but at the same time, I don't think Dana would really care. Maybe Dana would attend, but he would attend not as a hardcore, once again, he would attend as an enthusiast.
The UFC's looking at Conor. They don't like to let guys with name value get down to 2 fights, let alone 1 fight, which it could be depending on that sunset clause if Conor McGregor has it or not. But here he is, even speculating. They may let me go. We also have this. This was more recent. This was a little bit more recent. This was in October as well, but a little bit more recent.
Oh, wait.
Listen to this.
King Koo the Goat says, Happy Ramadan from Citrus Heights. Man, shout out to you, King Koo the Goat, man. Shout out to you. Khabib from Timu. He's calling me Khabib Timu. You know what, man? I kind of take that as a compliment. You know, you guys comparing me to Khabib, that is a compliment. Look, think about it. What MMA streamer out there looks like a Dagestani, right? I think I got that going on for me, and then I got the whole California vibe going on for me. I got the whole, European support, going on with Irish, Scottish, and English fans. So, yeah, I don't mind the Khabib comparison at all. I take that as a compliment. Thank you very much.
To promote on its own, it's absolutely amazing. I put on a nice suit. I put on a nice watch. It's what I love to do. So, but don't get me wrong.
And by the way, guys, you will watch me break my fast on this live stream. So sorry, Fresh. I'm going to have to eat in front of you in this stream again. I know you guys hate it when I eat in the stream, but you know what I mean? I've been fasting all day. I got to go do it.
I missed the fight game, and I'm excited about what's ahead. I know Dave wants me in the bare knuckle. The UFC are concocting a new contract deal, or whatever's going to happen, I don't know. We'll see. We'll take it day by day.
If you have CalFresh, Medi-Cal, or...
Dave wants me in bare knuckle, but Dave...
He says, what's the best post-fast meal? You know what? There's not really a best... Oh, okay. Yes. There is. It's actually the dates, right? This is actually what I'm going to eat when is this? 14 minutes from now. So 14 minutes from now, yes, I would say dates are the best type of food to eat. Yes, I'm going to go with dates. Yes.
And the UFC's concocting some deal or some new contract or whatever may happen. Does that sound like he's confidently going to be returning to the UFC? Does it? Listen.
Fight game, and I'm excited about what's ahead. I know Dave wants me in the bare knuckle. The UFC are concocting a new contract deal, or whatever's going to happen, I don't know. We'll see.
New contract deal or whatever's going to happen, because now we have a $7.7 billion Paramount deal. Surely they would want Conor McGregor, right? We're going to get to that later. I already hinted at, I believe, the Ronda Rousey clip that we're going to get into in a second. The next thing I want to show you guys is this is very recent. This was in the middle of January. Conor McGregor was on some streamer's video game stream, and listen to what he had to say here. This is very interesting.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Tell me why that car's going to be. Negotiations with the other fighters in February, and I'm very interested about it. They've actually got a new deal with Paramount. It's worth $7.7 billion, so the company has 4x this profit. And my contract essentially is void right now because there's no more pay-per-view. Whereas my contract was based on pay-per-view sales. I'm the highest generating pay-per-view fighter of all time.
That's a word.
The pay-per-view system is done. I'm due a new contract, so we're going to negotiations in February, and I'm very interested to see how it goes. And what am I doing for it? I'm focusing on what I can control.
So there's a $7.7 billion Paramount deal. Conor's contract heavily relied on pay-per-view points. He's one of the very few fighters that actually gets paid large sums for pay-per-view points because...
King Goose says, last year some of my training partners came to class late because class was starting right when they could eat. Oh, okay, that's interesting. What gym is that, by the way? Let me know.
He pushes pay-per-views. He sells pay-per-views. There's no longer...
Would that happen to be Warneck Jiu-Jitsu by any chance? I know Warneck Jiu-Jitsu is... big in the Citrus Heights area. It's also near They also have a dojo in near the ARC area, right? The American River College. So yeah, let me know what gym that is you're talking about.
Pay-per-views with Paramount. So how do they figure that out? How do they figure out how to pay Conor? And also, what incentive do they have to pay Conor? You guys tell me. And I called this out in the very beginning. The UFC is not incentivized to make the best versus the best, but they're also not incentivized to have their biggest stars or their highest paid fighters be active. You think they're getting paid the same amount no matter what? You think they're going to want to pay Conor McGregor a ridiculous amount of money long term? Absolutely not. I don't even think Conor fights two more fights in the UFC. I think he has maybe one. They're going to devalue him, and they're going to say, you know what, we don't feel like paying him anymore. And that's what this Carlos Prates fight is going to be.
Okay, so Warnack BJJ. Okay, so I was right. Okay, that's all right. So that makes a lot of sense. Fresh Melindry says Muslims are the only people on earth who's eating while fasting. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're creating sort of an oxymoron there just for the sake of oxymoron. He says, what's up, man? Robert from New Mexico, USA. All right, man. Shout out to Robert Zamora, man, from New Mexico, USA, man. Probably one of the best MMA gyms in the world is in your part of the world. Obviously, Greg Jackson's the home of John Jones, the home of many great fighters that have came before him and after. So, you know, beautiful MMA state in terms of a lot of stars and a lot of fighters that they attract to come there even till this day. So,
hey, now we also have confirmed Dana White recently. I just want to watch this clip for the hell of it, saying it's not going to be Chandler. Okay, we already know that, but we'll listen to it again.
I know there's like all the talk of Michael Chandler and Conor. Do you see like that as like a realistic thing?
No, I mean that was a couple years ago.
Yeah, so that's nothing you'd entertain for the White House.
Absolutely not. Michael Chandler just dropped to his knees. Why would they not want the Chandler fight that they tried to push for a bit? You know, Chandler really deep-throated that for a bit. Wants to climax with Conor McGregor at the White House. Why would they all of a sudden, nah? I mean, we all knew it wasn't happening. I knew it wasn't happening. But I'm just saying, for Dana just to completely shut it down, it was kind of out of the blue. Like, he hadn't really kind of played cool. Oh, we don't know what's going to... Now he's like, nah, that was a couple years ago. That's because he knows that Conor wants out of his UFC contract. They're not...
King Guru the Goat says, have you heard of Major League Grappling? I just came across it, but they are local to Sacramento, and they do free open mats on Sundays at McKinley Park. No, I did not hear about that, but thank you for telling me that. I may just take up that offer and, you know, hit the open mats over there, man. Thank you for telling me that.
Not going to give him bummy-ass Michael Chandler, Dirty Mike, for him to just starch, and then his star power is going to grow, and then he's going to leave the UFC? They don't want that. They don't want that at all. While the UFC does not need Conor, they don't want anybody else to have him. One more clip talking about Conor as well. You can see how Dana's kind of changed, kind of soured on Conor a little bit.
Definitely.
That's not Dana. That looks like me. That guy looks like a combination of me and Dana put together. Just so you know. Okay, that's not Dana.
So you don't see any world that
Shout out to Complex News.
like
I don't feel like cooking today, so I'm trying 2 meals from Cook Unity to see if they're actually worth the hype. And first up, we're starting with this mission.
Conor comes back.
Yeah, what a great way to tease a Muslim by you know, having food as a commercial anyways.
I know there was like him on the billboards with Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if Conor's going to come back or not. You know, we've been talking about it for a while. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
We'll see how it plays out. I don't...
Mr. Good Citizen, they gorge to when they do. What do you mean by that? Explain that a little bit.
No.
Oh, no, though.
I don't know if he ever returns.
There it is. So he says, I don't know if he ever returns, and that was Dana White explaining that to Complex News. All right, I'm going to get to the Cartel news right now, okay? Because I know that this may take a while. I may not get to it, so I'd rather just do it right now with the Mexican Cartel story, right? Okay. Mexican cartel targets Americans. Here we go. All right, let's find out what's going on with the Mexican cartel right now. He says you and Tyson Fury. Okay, yes, that would be a better combination. Yes, doesn't look like Dana has been fasting. LOL. No, he hasn't. You don't know he hasn't. You know, although he got in shape for that little bit of time, but you know how it is, man. Guys get in shape, but it's not always a guarantee that they're going to stay that way. All right, let's get to this Mexican cartel story right now. We'll get back to that story with Conor McGregor because, you know, I like to jump around with stories because I got ADD like that. So, yeah, let's check out what is going on with the Mexican cartel right now. So, here we go.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. We are following some developing news out of Mexico. Today, the Mexican army...
Victory says ADD gang. That's right.
He says they killed a powerful cartel leader during an operation meant to capture him. The Defense Department says the leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel was wounded during that operation about 2 hours from Guadalajara, and he later died while he was being flown to Mexico City. And this is a very powerful cartel there in Mexico. The leader now killed by the Mexican army, according to...
Now, here's the thing, right? They say that it's the Mexican army that did it. I'm going to say that there was help by U.S. Special Forces, okay? And I'm not saying that to diminish the Mexican military, right? As if they're not their own sovereign nation, as if they are not a capable fighting force all on their own. But what I'm saying is that Donald Trump wanted to get his hands on a cartel for a very long time. Now, why are they not open about it the way that they are with Venezuela? Well, number one, Venezuela is a different case because you're talking about a world leader, right? A world leader gets captured, people want to know, right? People want to know. You have to make claim of it. You have to let the world know. You have to let the world know that you're hanging Saddam Hussein. You have to let the world know that you're shooting Osama bin Laden. You have to let the world know that you are going after Maduro. So as a result, with the cartel, it's a little bit different. They are not a government entity. They are a criminal organization. And as a result of that, Donald Trump wants to keep it in a covert manner, right? And there's another good reason why they want to keep it in a covert manner. Understand this. Because they don't want to create more strife in Mexico. I think U.S. intelligence, in particular the CIA and the FBI, they know for a fact, or at least have some sort of a hint of suspicion that the cartels are working directly with the president of Mexico, or have been working with the Mexican government as well as other governments around the world. Do you put it past Hezbollah to work with the Mexican cartel? Do you put it past Al-Qaeda to work with the Mexican cartel? I remember seeing a Showtime show back in 2005. I believe it was called Sleeper Cell, starring Michael Ealy, that light-skinned black dude from Barbershop, right? He played a Muslim American FBI agent who went undercover in Al-Qaeda to infiltrate an Al-Qaeda cell in Los Angeles, right? And in one scene, him and a few of these Al-Qaeda members, right, Sleeper Cell Al-Qaeda members, went down to Mexico to literally get into a shootout with the Mexican cartel and ended up taking over their drug supplies or whatever it is that they had going on. So they basically used those drug supplies to fund their cause around the world, right? Now, I know that's fiction, but you got to understand, when you make a show that has a slight bit of reality to it, you got to think they have some kind of inspiration behind that, right? So, once again, let me preface this, right? U.S. Special Forces were involved. They don't want you to know, because if they know, then it would cause a lot of strife and a lot of bad diplomatic relations between Mexico and America. Okay, so back to the clip. Mr. Claiborne says, "Good evening, sir." Good evening to you as well, my man.
to the Defense Department there. For more on this story, let's bring in Chris Dalby. He is an investigative journalist and author of CJNG, a guide to Mexico's deadliest cartel. Thank you so much for being here, Chris.
It's an absolute pleasure, Shauna. Thank you for having me.
So you actually wrote a book.
Of course, we got to have an English guy on, and you know, when an English guy comes on, it's easy to believe him, right? Zietas, Ruin says.
About this particular cartel, the CJNG, the Associated Press calls it the most powerful cartel in Mexico. The U.S. Deputy Secretary of State described the leader as one of the most ruthless drug kingpins in the world. Can you tell us more about this?
Absolutely. If you've heard about the worst of Mexican cartel violence, you know, the most abhorrent acts, the bodies, the decapitated corpses, the videos, a lot of that begins with the CJNG. El Mencho is one of the most influential drug kingpins in the last 30 years. I would put him at the same level as Pablo Escobar and El Chapo when it comes to the quantity of drugs that his organization has moved in Mexico.
Yeah, Derek says that these cartels are so brutal. Indeed, they are, man. They are. At a level that even American gangs and criminals here couldn't even imagine.
In the United States and further abroad, he is directly and indirectly responsible for the deaths of thousands of people in Mexico and through drugs in the United States. The problem is that while he absolutely deserved to face justice, removing him removes the man who kept the CJNG united. And while the CJNG is extreme...
So I want you to think about that, right? They said that removing him would remove the man that would keep the CNG united. So in other words, they remove him, guess what happens? Someone else comes in, and once again, this is why I say there's a hypothesis where a sort of theory that I have that the U.S. Special Forces were involved, but they just don't want you to know because it would cause even more chaos that the U.S. interfered against a sovereign nation.
Extremely violent, by far the most violent cartel in Mexico.
Mr. Claiborne says the stuff that gets talked about, it's not even the deepest levels of the absolute torturous acts that even the mafia doesn't use just to send a message. For sure. For sure. The level of violence that they have is insane. And then on top of that, you also got to understand they're sort of into this whole devil worshipping stuff too, like Diablos and all this other, you know, people of the dead type of business. But yeah, I'm going to let this clip play on as I break my fast for Ramadan, for fasting right now. So
removing him will likely lead to 5 or 6 of his lieutenants turning on each other and ramping up the level of violence to perhaps record levels in Mexico to control the CJNG empire.
And that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Now that he's dead, what does that mean for this operation? Who takes the lead? And will there be maybe more retaliation from the cartel now that this has happened?
You know, President Trump has rightly designated Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations. And El Mencho had a bounty on his head of $50 million for anyone giving information that led to his capture. As I said, El Mencho needed to face justice. But the kingpin strategy, as we call it, which is where you focus on removing the kingpin, the head of the cartel, and that's your sole focus, has a major problem. Because the kingpins are often the ones controlling an organization. And when they are removed, and we've seen it with Escobar, we've seen it with El Chapo, and we're going to see it with El Mencho, that unifying force, that cult of personality goes away. There are 5 or 6 leaders of the CJNG, which I identify in my book, who all have significant manpower, drug trafficking potential, contacts in the US, money laundering options, and incredible finances and weaponry that they will absolutely use if they think that they can claim a piece, if not all, of the CJNG. To my knowledge, El Mencho didn't pick a successor. To my knowledge, El Mencho didn't go to his lieutenants and say, when I die, when I'm arrested, this is the next guy. He may have done, but we certainly have no information as to that. So right now, what we're seeing in Mexico, the immediate response is what we call the narco blockades or the narco bloqueos. This happens a lot when these top guys are removed. and the cartel wants to make a big show of, burning cars and blocking highways and blocking access to the airport. That often goes away within a few days, especially because the area in which they're being violent, Guadalajara, one of the biggest cities in Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, a place that millions of Americans go to on holiday, is where the government is absolutely going to want to show we're not letting the cartel dominate this for long. After that, across Mexico, there are so many criminal economies that the CJNG was involved with. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars in criminal earnings that are now up for grabs.
Right now, we're showing some video of what you just mentioned, those cars set on fire, the killing of this powerful drug lord, setting off hours of roadblocks with those burning vehicles, both in Jalisco and other states. Can you talk a little bit more about this tactic that is commonly used by the cartels to block these military operations? How big of a scale is this? We also want to show a little bit of those images of the smoke that arose from these multiple car fires today. What do you take from this reaction from the cartel, and what more can we expect?
So information coming to me in the last hour has suggested that there's been some movement there. Yes, in the hours immediately after El-Kheer died, gunmen took to the streets, imposed a curfew on much of Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta. Again, these are cities in Jalisco. This is their home turf. This is where we can expect a stronger reaction. But there were videos of gunmen at the airport. That appears to have been substantiated, but that situation appears to have been resolved. Police and army were able to retake control of Guadalajara Airport. We don't have information about casualties yet, but the gunmen never reached the tarmac. We're seeing videos shared online of burning planes or, the whole city on fire. Those are seem to be fake news. In Puerto Vallarta, the cruise port appears to have had a fire set there, preventing access. But again, those situations could probably be resolved in the next few hours to days, with perhaps some casualties, but a limited number. The problem is that Guadalajara is going to be a World Cup city in 5 months. Puerto Vallarta is one of the biggest tourism destinations in Mexico and a constant place that Americans visit. That sort of reputational damage takes months or years to recover from. So what the CJNG has done here is, in an outburst of violence that might be controlled, create long-lasting economic ramifications for Mexico and the United States. I don't expect the violence in the medium to long term to be in the cities. I expect it to be in rural Mexico, in small town Mexico, where the drugs are going through, where the fentanyl is being manufactured, where the migrants are being smuggled, where the oil is being stolen. Because those are the areas where there are no tourists, there are few cameras, and the violence can happen almost with impunity. And that is a problem that Mexico is going to...
Okay, so I want you to notice, right? They said that they have a whole lot of drug money that is unaccounted for, right? So what do you think the U.S. is trying to do, right? You know that Donald Trump loves to take resources, right? He loves to take resources. He sort of has this project going on of neo-colonialism right now, right? Practicing it in Greenland, practicing it in wherever he can, find Venezuela, right? What's next after that? Iran. That is the project that he is looking to do. So this is the reason why I say maybe U.S. forces were involved and they just don't want nobody to know about it because they want to garner whatever resources that they can find, on top of perhaps not creating a diplomatic strife between the U.S. and Mexico.
You're going to have to figure it out. And I don't know to what extent the U.S. government is going to be interested in helping them, because the U.S. was very focused on El-Kheer. What happens next is open for debate.
And the Defense Department says that during this operation to capture El-Kheer, the Mexican troops came under fire. They ended up killing a total of 7 people, including the cartel leader. They also seized some armored vehicles, other arms, and rocket launchers, they say. So how big of a blow will this...
So let's say if the U.S. was involved, right? How would they sort of blend into this whole entire situation? Because obviously most American troops, right, if you see them anywhere in the world, whether it's in Afghanistan or whether it's in Iraq or whether it's in Syria, right, they have done operations in Syria fighting ISIS. They have done operations in Pakistan, obviously, to take down bin Laden, right? It's quite obvious. Like, you see guys with digital camouflage. Sometimes they're not digital camouflage, right? Sometimes they're just regular, you know, old camouflage like they had back in the days, right? Depending on what branch or what purposes they have going on, you know, on the missions that they have going on, right? So maybe they had U.S. troops dressed as Mexican troops, right? That is often something that they will do, right? They will change disguises, they will change uniforms, right? Sometimes they will create uniforms of other countries and other, you know, other military groups to blend in. Now, again, I don't know if that is the case. I'm not telling you that that is the definitive reality. I'm merely stating to you a potential hypothesis and not exactly a theory that is proven by any stretch of anyone's imagination. Rob Davison says Minnesota. What do you mean by Minnesota? Are you saying that Minnesota could be the next potential target, or what? What is? Give me some reference towards Minnesota and why you mentioned it.
Have to the cartel's operation, or might it weaken this powerful cartel there in Mexico?
The arrests and seizures of weaponry and killings outside of El Mencho are trivial. The Jalisco cartel has thousands of members and has enough weaponry to arm a small army.
We met in high school. Our daughter is 10 weeks old, very fresh.
El Mencho was the cult of personality at the center of this cartel. Every video that they did showing their strength, every video that they did killing one of their opponents, every banner that they put up in their territory always ended with the same phrase: Somos la gente del Señor Mencho. We are the people of Mr. Mencho. He really ruled with an iron grip, and that's what I mean by his removal is so dangerous. Because when you have a cartel, and it's unique in Mexico, not even El Chapo with the Sinaloa cartel had this sort of soul power. El Mencho founded the Jalisco cartel. No other person has ever come close.
King Goose says CJNG came after the fall of the Zetas. You know what, man? As much as I have knowledge of like all the gangs in the United States, in particular in California, right? Bloods, Crips, Norteños, Sureños, Fresno Bulldogs, Armenian Power, Hell's Angels, the Mongols, Nazi Lowriders. I mean, what else group did I not mention? The Punjabi Blue Devils, the biker gang, right? The Indian biker gang that just recently caught a RICO charge in Stockton, right? I know all the gangs in California, but man, I really got to do some research on the Mexican cartels because, quite frankly, I don't know enough about it, but yeah, you know, I have to research these things. So, okay, so according to you and according to conventional news out there, right, CJNG came after the fall of the Zetas. So obviously Zetas was probably the group that was running that whole operation prior, and now it is CNG-NJ that is running the whole show, and okay, and that is where we are right now. Okay, so thank you for that information.
To toppling him, and no one really knows what happens next. So it is definitely going to weaken the Jalisco cartel. I don't even know if the Jalisco cartel is going to survive in its present form, because it is now very tempting for these lieutenants to go out on their own, either to maintain their own operations and keep the money, or to try and take control of the entire CJNG empire.
Chris, we really appreciate your insight here. Anything else that you want to point out about this cartel, the significance of what happened today in Mexico, or what you're going to be watching moving forward here?
Yeah, I want to make one thing very, very clear. While El Mencho, again, needed to face justice, is one of the most influential drug traffickers in the history of North America. His removal in itself doesn't stop the drug flow. His removal...
Okay, so that's important to know, right? He said that his removal alone doesn't stop the drug flow. So what exactly does that mean? That means that it's business as usual. Him being taken out, there's a political move behind that. That, we don't know for certain what that is. In time, and as this story develops, we will learn. But just know, this doesn't stop anything. This doesn't give a definitive victory on the war on drugs, for whatever that means, because the war on drugs is going to be a continuation, just like the war on terror will always be a problem, right? So war on drugs and the war on terror are two wars that America will never defeat completely in the way that they did with the Nazis and with the Japanese, the Japanese Empire in World War II. Completely different type of scenarios, but yeah.
Will weaken one cartel temporarily. There are always more kingpins. There are always more drug traffickers. The demand for drugs in the United States and the potential for criminal violence and enrichment in Mexico is such that within a few weeks to a few months, that situation is going to be normalized. So removing El-Mencho is a positive step, but it can cause more instability, and that instability can cause more violence, and that violence can cause a greater amount of drugs and a greater amount of money for the cartels. So net positive, I'm not sure we can say that.
Welcome back to the channel. New video. Recently, the Trump administration, they went after the president of a foreign nation. They captured that president, brought him.
Shout out to my man Dubs. This is my homie right here, so I gotta react to him and his take on it. So shout out to Dubs, man.
Back to the United States. When they captured Maduro, Donald Trump hinted at maybe this nation would go after more people involved in the drug trade. And then last night, Nemesio Segura Cervantes, a.k.a. El-Mencho, was targeted in a military operation in Jalisco. The Mexican government, the Mexican army, they went after and they took out El-Mencho. They took out other people that were there beside him, fighting to save him, fighting to let him get away. And even though it was the
Eric B says democracy is worth fighting for in some places. You know what, Eric? I think I might have to agree with you on that, right? At first, when I saw your comment come in, I had a little bit of a pushback in me to say, nah, you know what? I don't know about all that, right? But in reality, you are right. Now, let me tell you the places where it doesn't work. It doesn't work in Islamic nations, right? Because as a Muslim, I could tell you, and from the experience that I've had being in Muslim countries, living in Muslim countries, visiting Muslim countries, being in Muslim countries for reasons that I can't mention, I could tell you that they do not want democracy, especially in a Muslim majority country. They don't want democracy. Mexico, on the other hand, it's a little bit different. They do want democracy. Cuba, although they don't mind communism, I'm sure they also don't mind democracy as well, or whatever democracy may mean. Now, you also have to understand, democracy means something different for other people. Now, you say that Sharia isn't free, but you have to understand, for people to choose to live as a Muslim, for me to choose to grow a beard, or for a Muslim lady to choose to wear a hijab, you have to understand that is a free choice for them to do. And sometimes when you grow up in a society, well, okay, let me rephrase that. It is a free choice for me because I'm an American Muslim, right? I can choose to be secular or I can choose to be Muslim. I choose to be Muslim. Now, I do agree with you that there are some people in the Muslim world that don't want to be Muslim, right? But have to live in Islamic standards, right? And this is the reason why Western Muslim converts often are, you know, one of the strongest practicing Muslims out there, and sometimes also the key haven of terrorism. Let's just be honest about that, right? A lot of Muslim converts are terrorists, you know what I mean? Or join terrorist organizations. Just look at all the gingers in the UK. Kingu asked, can I ask you then, what is it about Islam and Muslim people that makes them not want democracy in your opinion? Well, it's easy to answer. Democracy is a pagan way of living. right? It is a pagan way of living. There's a lot of idol worshiping that sort of goes into it. There's a lot more trust on a person rather than Allah. And then there's you know, there's a lot of rules and regulations that are antiquatedly contrasting to an Islamic way of life, right? And that's really what it is. Is it something in the doctrine? Yes, and I think I just you know, explained that. It's unfortunate not to have free speech. He says you need to go to the Middle East. Alfie Zaza says you need to go to the Middle East. Okay, well, I've been to the Middle East for multiple times and multiple reasons, so I don't know why you would say that, but okay. But anyways, Eric B says religion is crazy. I love the living God. Huh, what do you mean by the living God? Do you mean that you just love God and you don't really necessarily fall into any religion? Then I suppose that would classify you as somewhat of an agnostic, right? I think that is the proper term that they call it.
The Mexican government, it was American intelligence that told them exactly where to go and
There it is. So Dubs agrees with me about, well, okay, he's saying that it's American intelligence that told them where to go. I'm going a little bit further and beyond that as to say that there were American troops, or by the very least CIA agents on the ground to do what they needed to do. Okay, so Eric B, you are a Christian. That's perfectly fine. You are more than welcome here. A lot of my a lot of my supporters here are Christian. Also, which by the way is the reason why a lot of them, you know, interact with each other in the chat. You can also interact with some of the people that I have as my moderators in here. You know, they are also I mean, Marty Miller, right? One of my moderators, he's a Christian, right? He's a self-identified Christian. So, you know, you are very welcome, right? We all love God here, and we all have our ways of expressing it. Obviously, just slight differences of opinion on how we express those, you know, religious beliefs. But on any regard, here we are. He says, I wish Iran for people to be free. Well, here's the thing, right? We don't really know if the majority of people of Iran really want that or they don't want that. You have to remember, they caused a revolution back in 1979, right? In order for you to cause a revolution, you have to have the majority of the people side with you on that particular matter. So it's something you have to think about.
exactly who to get. I know that a lot of people are going to point the finger at Trump, and they're going to use this as another emotional, it's racist type thing, right? And that is the easiest way to get distracted.
That's a very good point, Dubs, right? There are people that are going to use this as some sort of like call for racism. You see, this is why Trump hates the Latinos. This is why Trump hates the raza. This is why Trump doesn't like, you know, such and such, right? But I think that it's always been U.S. policy, at least going back to the days of Ronald Reagan, to go after drugs, right? That's the war on drugs. Trump is just the continuation of that, right? Because you remember, Make America Great, you know, moniker comes from Ronald Reagan. King Goose says, were you raised Muslim? Yes and no. Let me explain something, right? So I'm half Arabic and half Pacific Islander, right? I didn't grow up with my dad. I later was reacquainted with my dad, spent some time in the Middle East, learned about Islam, then I became a Muslim. But while growing up in the United States, I was a normal, everyday American kid who just happened to have Arab lineage, and I got interested in my Arab lineage, and next thing you know, I got into Islam, and then became, you know, a full-blown practicing Muslim with a beard and no mustache and all. So Alfie says the U.S. should make glass out of Iran. Okay. I think that will happen probably in you know, in a few days or so, right? Only time will tell. Goldfish says hi. Hello. Eric B says free to worship is better than forced. Well, there you go, right? I think I think no one ever forced me to become a Muslim. Obviously, it was my choice. So there it is, right? Look, guys, I've had experience being in the Marine Corps, right? Enough said, right? It doesn't get any more American than that. Then I went to become a Muslim, and then there's a whole lot of other things that I can't talk about as well that that sort of goes into that. But anyways,
You know, in taking out El Mencho, at least 20 states in Mexico had some kind of uprising. As we know, when they caught El Chapo, it created a power vacuum. And a lot of people that were at one time allies became rivals.
hey, you have a good one, King Goo. Shout out to you, man, my fellow Sacramento man. Inshallah, we can, meet up one day and, and get the training. Or if you see me around town, I'm not hard to notice around town. You know what I mean? I'm very, I stand out. Okay, so if you see me, say hi. Let me know who you are and say, yeah, I ran across you in your live stream. So there you go, man. Have a great night. Have a beautiful Sacramento night in this beautiful Sacramento, California weather. Represent.
And I have no doubt that may happen again here. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I think that we need to ask ourselves what happened. U.S. intelligence always knew where El Mencho was. They know where all of these guys are. They always do.
Facts, they do.
And nothing's been done. Why now? Why El Mencho?
The reason why they want to get it done right now is because Trump knows that he's at a limited time right now and wants to possibly create a legacy, right? Or create a deterrence. For people that are also human trafficking, by the way, right? This area in Mexico is also notorious for sending people over the border. So maybe that has something to do with it as well, right? Rather than, let's say, have ICE agents go across the United States, which, by the way, has become a very unpopular situation. Why not just go and, have get right to the source, right? Cut the, head of the snake right down to it. Eric B says, get it, Trump. Drugs and money, that isn't American. Drugs and money, that isn't American. What do you mean? You're saying that drugs and money isn't American? Well, I would argue it's part of the fabric of American culture. And in fact, you could even argue that it influences American culture to a certain extent, right? Money obviously drives a lot of people, right? We live in a capitalistic system. Drugs, it's a big part of our society in terms of recreational, legal or illegal, the debate behind that, right? What is, considered a drug? What isn't? What is fair use? What isn't? And things of that nature, right? And then it also inspires a lot of our artists to make the type of, records that they do. Historically speaking, at least.
It's been spoken about. A lot of people don't want to listen. They don't want to believe it. But you can look it up. Different podcasts, people in the intelligence community, former guys in the intelligence community saying.
Okay, so Eric B made a good point there. That's the whole issue. The cartel is making too much and China is in on it. That's brilliant right there, Eric B. Man, I hope you stay around and you like and subscribe, my man. Those are very good takes. I never even thought of it like that, but that's a very good take, my man. Thank you for that take.
At least the last 5 presidents of Mexico were placed there by assets in the United States government. And that same group that has been putting people in place and putting people in power in Mexico, they've been involved in the drug trade decade after decade after decade. We stayed in Vietnam for as long as we did because of the Golden Triangle for the drug trade. We were in Colombia for decades because of the drug trade. We were in Afghanistan for all the opium they had.
Facts. Facts, Dubs.
If people don't want to believe that, that's fine.
He says, interesting side for NorCal and Mencho history. He was in San Fran in the 80s and was arrested a few times with mug shots as a young man online. Google it. Ah, okay, that's interesting. I will.
I'm just regurgitating what's been put out there by a lot of people who would allegedly be in the know. This thing that happened to El Mencho, it's not just something where it's like, hey, let's take out drug guy. Because if that was the case, they could have hit multiple people at once. This is a play. We may never figure out what the play is. But now you have foreigners trapped in Mexico. How long they'll be trapped, I don't know. Their nations have warned them to stay in place, not move around. And their consulates will figure out a way to get them out. The Mexican government will try to figure it out, but that's not their priority right now. Again, in at least 20 states, there was an uprising. The authorities in Mexico are focused on that. They're bracing for what's going to come next because something will come next. We have a lot of people saying that there may be a problem with Iran coming up. Well, how convenient to try to maybe possibly get the United States tangled up in Mexico as well. Have the U.S. military in two different places at once. Hopefully neither.
T says, Fetty price is going up again. Oh, man. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean by that. He says, Vato Loco News. Man, listen, this dude right here, he's a strong supporter of my channel. So I'm going to support his channel. And yeah, man, you know, I got love for the Vato Locos. You know what I mean? I don't just got love for, you know, the black side or the Asian side. I got love for my Mexicans as well. Not just the northern Mexicans, but also the southern Mexicans as well. So shout out to all my essays as well, man.
Those things happen. Hopefully nothing happens.
By the way, this dude killed a man, by the way, okay? Went to prison for 24 years and got released. So there you go. You know what I mean?
With Iran, when we get tangled up militarily, and hopefully nothing happens in Mexico where we get tangled up in it. But I think it's common sense that there would be a lot of people who dislike this country who would love to see our military in two different places at once.
Gee, I wonder what country wants to see our military at two places at once. I don't know, maybe a Middle Eastern country that has a blue and white flag. He says only polo bears support here. Polo bears? What do you mean by that?
Mexico has gone through so much.
Curtis Knight says, Vatos Locos for life. Man, I don't know why they're like, I don't know why they're translating what you're saying to English, right? Like I look at my computer and then I look at my phone on the vertical, it's saying two different things, but the same meaning of a different language. But yeah, they're like translating what you're saying, Curtis Knight. Shout out to Curtis Knight. Let me know what part of the world you are from, my man.
Since 1519, since the arrival of the Spanish. And then after them, the French, the Portuguese, and everyone else. There are people who believe, people who have been saying forever that Mexico is
Oh, you're from Cali. All right, bro. What part of California are you from? He says, this guy is on the applesauce. You're talking about me? You're talking about me that's on the applesauce? Bro, you should have seen my workout sessions today. I was obviously working out while I was fasting for Ramadan. You would think I would be on applesauce, but all of that was done out of sheer... you know, yeah, it was done out of sheer mental fortitude. SoCal. Okay, so you're from the South. Okay, shout out to you, my man. What do you claim any hood? Do you come from a set? Let me know. I'm curious to know, or if you're just a normal guy in SoCal. Either way, you're welcome here. Let me know what part of SoCal you are from. I'm now getting more California supporters. Obviously, I'm in California myself. I'm in Sacramento, California to be exact, but I do frequent down in LA a lot. So regime change, yes or no? No. In terms of Mexico, I think they like who is running Mexico right now. President Steinbaum obviously is a Jewish woman. So yeah, I don't think they have a problem with her being there. T says LA whoop. Oh, okay, so you're probably from a blood neighborhood then. I know what that means. When you say whoop or whop, or yeah, you're from a blood neighborhood. So shout out to the Bloods. I got a lot of blood homies out here. Oak Park Bloods. All those guys are like my family. I got some nephews in that set. So yeah, man, shout out to everybody, man.
First, because of the things that it used to be involved in, I don't believe it. I believe that there was a mindset created by the arrival of Cortez. The only way a small group of Spaniards were able to keep millions of people from wiping them out was to make those people fight each other, hate each other.
And that is why you have a North versus South thing going on in the ganglands of California. T says, low-key, you just put the homeboys business out for everyone that isn't any better look either, my boy. Look, my man, listen, if this was the 90s, right? Like, I understand what you're saying, West Up, peace. If this was the 90s, I understand what you're saying, right? But we live in, like, an internet era where people can kind of look this up, and then there's rap songs, there's people that talk about it, right? YG, I mean, it's quite obvious, right? When YG says he's from the BPT, like, we kind of know and understand like what he means by that, right? I mean, at least if you're intelligent enough, but okay, I get it. If you're not intelligent enough, then I guess that is the audience that they're talking to kind of like, make that into a cryptic language that nobody else understands, that has to know. But yeah, man. But either way, man, shout out to you. West Up, peace out, man. Shout out to you. Eric B says, we are shades of wheat, not color. Okay, whatever that means.
And it's been going on since 1519. Mexico is a country that has so many, it's well documented, well known, so many natural resources. Mexico, if they could get it together, could be a powerhouse economically as well as militarily. But for some reason, there's always something destabilizing them, not allowing them to become what they can become and what they should be. And putting people in. Yep.
Jimmy says MMA at the American White House, it's idiocracy. Okay, so
called the home equity agreement.
I think we can move on to MMA talk right now. So wait, hold on. Let's.
So
he says, yeah, sure, blame the whites. No, I don't think he's blaming whites, dude. I think he's just saying, MMA at the American White House. He's talking about the White House, not, what he meant.
I'm hoping that this video will get some people to think. And get some people.
He says, Idiocracy was literally a documentary predicting the future. Well, exactly. I know exactly what you mean by that. Yes, that is, it's coming to fruition now.
To investigate and educate themselves. Don't get caught up in the hype. Don't be pulled emotionally. Right now, there are so many people that want everyone else to react emotionally rather than intellectually. want you to get to the bottom of stuff. They want you to react emotionally because it's easier to control you. It's easier to control the masses if you can get them by their emotions.
Oh, he's saying I'm talking about the Vato Loco blaming everything on something. You know what? That guy, Dubs, is actually a conservative, right? He's a registered Republican, Trump supporter, and he just happens to be, from that side of L.A. or Santa Barbara, where he's specifically from. But yeah, he leans in that direction. So I doubt Dubs is one of those guys that would, necessarily blame, the whites. And then on top of that, if you understand gang politics, people like him, believe it or not, are affiliated with a lot of white gangs, Peckerwoods, Nazi gangs, like the Nazi lowriders, right? They are all affiliated with them, right? Southsiders and Nazis are affiliated with each other, at least in prison, maybe even in the streets. Jimmy Meyer says, conservatives actually still exist. Are you sure? Libertarians walked away a long time ago. Okay, and then he says victim mentality. Jimmy Meyer says Republicans were going to go crazy. Libertarians were going to go legalize weed. Okay, yeah. He says you already ate. Yes, I was eating some dates right now, and then I'm obviously finishing up the stream pretty soon, and I'm going to eat, as time goes on. But yeah, I just wanted to get this stream in, and
because once they start using their intellect and questioning stuff, they lose all control. That's my video for today. Hopefully, you guys.
All right, man. So shout outs to Dubs on that one. All right, back to the UFC video about MMA Joey saying that the UFC is setting up Conor to lose.
The podcast, and I really should have it, but I didn't want to include too much that we didn't need in this video, where he was like glazing Conor like 6-8 months ago on like a Nelk Boys podcast, saying, "Yeah, man, Conor's so reliable. He wants to fight this and that. I can."
Oh, is MMA Joey live as well? Okay, interesting.
Count on him, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to return." I believe the UFC's...
Oh, yes, please. That would be awesome, bro. Yeah, comment my name on his live. That would be awesome, dude. Please. Yes, that would be awesome. Send him a super chat, obviously, because then he'll have no choice but to, but to mention it. So, or you could send me a super chat. I don't know. What would be worth more? I think you giving him the super chat would be a better investment than you giving me the super chat, right? Saying, hey, check out Kyrie Abu El-Kheer and, such and such. He says, most common thing asked, did libertarians ever do legalize weed? Cool, dude. I like you guys. Okay, very interesting point there from Jimmy Myers.
Plan is they want to have Conor return one time in the UFC, get absolutely slaughtered, and build a new star, and that new star is Carlos Prates. This is Carlos Prates on Instagram. Great things are coming. Cell phone emoji and eyes. This may not mean nothing. This could mean something. Again, this is not official. This is just my pure speculation.
Great things coming could also mean another fight that may not have anything to do with the White House, or it may have something to do with Conor McGregor, right? Because that is a good point. And that is the point that I made earlier when we were talking about it. They want to get rid of Conor McGregor and build a new star. So that is what they are planning to do. All right, guys, listen. Silly speculation. Well, it's speculation, right? That is why we have MMA YouTube channels, so that we can speculate on the next fight, on the next event, on the next content, on the next live stream. And with that in mind, I hope that you like and subscribe to all of those that I had just mentioned, all of the live streams, all of the videos, and all of the shorts, and everything that I do in YouTube. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe to this one. Go share it. I will see you guys in the next one. I'm about to go eat my dinner that I've been highly anticipating for hours now. So I will see you in the next one, inshallah. Replace Conor with Prates, LOL. Well, he's not going to be a bigger star than Conor McGregor, right? But they need a star, period. And Dustin Poirier was a star after he beat Conor McGregor. Khabib was a star after he beat Conor McGregor. Floyd Mayweather was already a star when he beat Conor McGregor, but became an even bigger star in the world of MMA for beating up Conor McGregor. Beating up Conor McGregor makes you a star. And that is how I'm going to end this live stream. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Inshallah.